Today, when we think of the United States, we imagine skyscrapers, Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and the most powerful military in the world. But America's journey was not always like this. Centuries ago, it was simply a land unknown to Europeans, home to rich civilizations of Native Americans. To understand how the United States became the superpower it is today, we need to go back to the beginning, the age of exploration. The story begins in the early 15th century with Portugal. Prince Henry of Portugal, also known as Henry the Navigator, had a dream to explore unknown seas and discover new lands. He established the famous School of Navigation, trained sailors, and sponsored voyages. His people mapped the west coast of Africa and opened new trade routes. But Henry never reached America himself. He died in 1460. After his death, the Portuguese continued their explorations, but fate gave the discovery of America to someone else. That man was Christopher Columbus. In 1492, Columbus, an Italian explorer, set out westward. His mission was to find a sea route to India. But instead of reaching India, he landed in the Caribbean. Believing he had reached the Indies, he called the local people Indians. Later, they came to be known as Native Americans. Columbus' journey was funded by the King and Queen of Spain, and it marked the beginning of European involvement in the New World. This discovery would change history forever. Following Columbus, waves of explorers came. Spain conquered vast territories, from Mexico to South America. France explored Canada and parts of the Mississippi River region. Britain focused on the eastern coast of North America. By the 17th century, 13 British colonies had been established. Along the Atlantic, these colonies would later become the heart of the United States. But the arrival of Europeans was disastrous for Native Americans. They lost their lands, cultures, and even their lives. Diseases brought by Europeans wiped out entire populations. Others were forced into slavery or pushed further west. For centuries, Native Americans suffered displacement and discrimination. A dark truth often hidden beneath America's shining image of freedom. Life in the colonies was tough but full of opportunity. Farmers, merchants, and craftsmen worked hard. Slowly, towns grew into cities, but under the surface, tensions brewed. Britain controlled the colonies tightly, imposing heavy taxes and strict trade rules. The colonies grew frustrated. They wanted freedom, not exploitation. This anger was the seed that would one day grow into the American Revolution. This is where the true fight for independence begins. But before we move forward, think about this. America, which today promotes democracy and freedom worldwide, was itself born out of resistance against control, unfair taxation, and exploitation. Isn't it ironic that the same land that once fought for freedom later became the most powerful country, often accused of controlling others? By the mid-18th century, the tension between Britain and its American colonies had reached its peak. The British government imposed heavy taxes, like the infamous Stamp Act and Tea Act. These laws angered colonists who felt they were being taxed without representation. Protests erupted, and one of the most famous events was the Boston Tea Party in 1773, where American patriots dumped British tea into the harbor as an act of rebellion. This marked the beginning of the American Revolution. In 1775, fighting broke out between British soldiers and colonial militias. The colonies, under leaders like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin, declared independence in 1776. The Declaration of Independence boldly stated that all men are created equal, and that governments derive power from the consent of the governed. These words inspired not only Americans but also people across the world. The war was not easy. Britain had the world's strongest army and navy, but the Americans had determination and local support. France, seeing an opportunity to weaken its old rival Britain, supported the Americans with money, weapons, and troops. Finally, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, and America became free. George Washington became the first president, and in 1788, the U.S. Constitution was adopted, a model of democracy that still shapes the country today. After independence, America began to expand. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson made the Louisiana Purchase, buying massive land from France. This doubled the size of the young nation. Soon, Americans moved westward, chasing the dream of land and prosperity. But this expansion came at a cost. Native Americans were forced off their lands in what became known as the Trail of Tears. The U.S. also fought wars to expand further. With Mexico, it fought the Mexican-American War, 1846-1848, seizing huge territories, including Texas, California, Arizona, and New Mexico. By the mid-19th century, America stretched from the Atlantic to the Pacific. But inside, America faced a deep division: slavery. The South depended on slaves for its cotton plantations, while the North wanted abolition. This conflict erupted into the Civil War in 1861. For 4 bloody years, Americans fought Americans. Over 600,000 lives were lost. Finally, in 1865, the Union North won, and slavery was abolished. President Abraham Lincoln became a symbol of freedom, though he himself was assassinated shortly after. After the Civil War, America industrialized. Rapidly, railroads connected the coasts, factories powered cities, and immigrants from around the world poured in. America was rising, but no one could have predicted just how powerful it would become in the 20th century. The 20th century was America's century. After World War I, 1914 to 1918, the U.S. emerged as a global power. But it was World War II, 1939 to 1945, that truly made America a superpower. While Europe lay in ruins, America's economy boomed. Its industries produced weapons, vehicles, and supplies for the Allies. When the war ended, the U.S. had the strongest military and the only nuclear weapons. But the victory brought a new challenge, the Cold War. From 1947 to 1991, America and the Soviet Union competed for global influence. The U.S. formed NATO, spread capitalism, and fought proxy wars in Korea and Vietnam. The space race led to the moon landing in 1969, a moment that showed America's technological supremacy. Eventually, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, leaving the U.S. as the world's only superpower. America shaped the world order. Institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and United Nations carried U.S. influence. The dollar became the global currency. American culture, from Hollywood movies to McDonald's, spread worldwide. The American dream became an aspiration for millions, but power brings responsibility and criticism. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan raised questions about America's role. Economic crises shook its image of stability. And today, the biggest challenge comes from China, a rising power with ambitions to challenge U.S. dominance. Some believe we are entering a new Cold War, and here lies the suspense. What is the U.S. not telling its people? Is America truly ready for China's rise? Will it continue to dominate, or is its power slowly fading? Whatever the answer, one truth remains. America's history is a story of ambition, struggle, and transformation. From Columbus's accidental discovery to Washington's revolution. From Lincoln's fight for unity to Roosevelt's leadership in war. Every chapter shaped the nation we know today, and just like history repeats itself, the question is, will America remain at the top, or will another nation rewrite the rules of power? And that's the untold history of America, from discovery to superpower. What do you think? Can China replace the U.S. as the world's leader, or will America hold its ground? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more eye-opening stories from history.